What if you could solve a huge medical mystery before it even becomes a crisis? Well, today on The Explainer, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going on a hunt for microscopic clues that could predict a life-altering condition in the first few weeks of pregnancy. So let's just get right to the heart of it. Imagine being able to spot one of the world's most common birth defects, not with some complex, bulky imaging machine, but with a single, simple blood test taken right at the beginning of a pregnancy. That is the incredible goal of the research we're breaking down today. Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we first need to understand the stakes. I mean, why is getting an early warning about a baby's heart so incredibly critical? Let's talk about the crime our scientific detectives are trying to solve. It's called congenital heart disease, or CHD for short. This is the most common type of birth defect in the entire world. It's a structural problem with the heart, and it can have consequences that last a lifetime. And the bottom line is simple. The earlier you can find it, the better the chances are for a good outcome. Right now, our main tool is the ultrasound that happens about halfway through pregnancy. But here's the problem. The detection rates can be, well, shockingly low. We're talking anywhere from just 6 to 35%. Plus, its success really depends on the skill of the person doing the scan. So yeah, it becomes pretty clear pretty fast that we desperately need a new approach, something reliable, objective, and that can be done way earlier. All right, so if ultrasound isn't quite cutting it, where do our detectives even start looking for clues? The answer, well, it might not be where you'd expect. The whole investigation actually focuses on the mother's blood. The theory goes like this. A developing heart defect doesn't happen in a vacuum. It leaves behind this trail of evidence, kind of like a unique fingerprint made of proteins, that gets released into the mother's bloodstream. And this is where the real detective work kicks in. First, researchers collected blood samples from two groups of women, one group where the fetus had CHD and a control group. Then, they used this amazing piece of tech called mass spectrometry. You can think of it as a super sensitive scale for molecules to analyze thousands of different proteins in every single sample. They were essentially dusting the entire crime scene for fingerprints, trying to see what was different between the two groups. So, after all that high-tech investigation, what did they uncover? Well, after sifting through mountains of data, a really clear pattern, a distinct fingerprint, you could say, started to emerge. Here's the first part of the evidence. In the blood of mothers carrying a fetus with CHD, they consistently found 25 specific proteins at higher levels. It's like finding 25 little clues that were always left behind at the scene. But clues aren't just about what's there, it's also about what's missing. And that was the second piece of the puzzle, and it was just as crucial. They found 49 other proteins that were consistently at lower levels in the CHD group. It's the combination of what's there and what's not that gives you the full picture. So you might be wondering, okay, but are these proteins just random? Not a chance. When the detectives looked closer, they basically found the motive. These proteins are all involved in really vital processes, like cardiac muscle contraction and metabolism. This was no coincidence. It was a clear biological signature that a heart was developing differently. Now, finding a fingerprint is one thing. That's a huge step. But how do you turn that evidence into a tool you can use to reliably identify cases in the future? This is where things get really futuristic. The researchers fed all this protein data into a machine learning model. Its job was to act like a master detective, to analyze all 74 of those clues and to figure out which ones were the absolute most reliable predictors of CHD. And boy, did it deliver. The model crunched all the numbers and narrowed down this huge field of suspects to a final lineup of just 9 proteins. Now, don't worry about the technical names here. What's so important is that the combined levels of these specific 9 proteins turned out to be the strongest, most reliable predictor. So, the million-dollar question, just how good is this 9-protein test? The answer is incredibly good. It achieved a diagnostic accuracy score of 0.964. To put that in perspective, a perfect score is 1.0. So this is remarkably accurate at telling the two groups apart, all from one simple blood sample. And this brings us to the big picture. Because solving this protein mystery isn't just some academic exercise. It has the potential to fundamentally change prenatal care for families everywhere. This quote from the research paper really gets to the heart of why this matters. See, an early diagnosis isn't about getting bad news sooner. It's about preparation. It gives families and doctors that precious time to plan, to arrange for specialized care, and to be ready for any interventions right after birth. And that can lead to a much, much better prognosis.
The ultimate takeaway from all this detective work is one of immense hope. We are looking at a future where a routine blood test in the first trimester could provide life-saving information months earlier than we ever thought possible. This could mean having the right surgical team ready on delivery day, or even pioneering ways to intervene before the baby is even born.
And that leaves us with this final, tantalizing question. Now, of course, more research is still needed, but this study provides a clear, powerful blueprint. The incredible detective work is done. The question now is, how soon could this breakthrough change the story of pregnancy for you and your family?